Good Mon oh God, did I just say I just did said Monday. Oh boy. Good Wednesday morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? We're waiting for court to resume here in the Karen Reed trial. Trooper Proctor will be back up on the stand today in Cross. Welcome in, everybody. So we'll wait. We'll wait and see what's going to happen. I will let everybody know I'm not going to be able to stream all day. I have about a hard stop at about 10:45-ish because I do have to go to work for this evening. But we'll hang out. We'll hang out here and see how things went. Yeah, don't scare us back to Monday. It's one of those mornings. I've been running around all over the place. It's just one of those mornings. But we'll wait. We'll wait to see what happens. Wait for court to resume. Wait for everybody to come in. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is hot as hell here in Massachusetts today. It's going to be a hot one, I think. It's about 70 degrees right now. I was out walking this morning up near my house where they've been filming the new Walking. I think it's either a series or a movie that they're producing for The Walking Dead. And I got to go by this old country club that they've been shooting inside of. And they actually had all the doors open today. I think there's some people in there doing set dressing and getting the set ready, or either just cleaning up. But it looked pretty cool in there, what they did. And I got about 20 seconds of video before someone came around the corner and started looking at me. So I kind of bolted out of there. But that was pretty cool to see that. So still waiting to hear about the air conditioner in my building, in my studio, so I can get up there and start getting back to lives in the studio and then having live guests in. I just haven't had anybody up there because it's been so hot. And I'm up on the third floor. There's no AC. So that room kind of permeates the heat all day. And it's just very uncomfortable in there, literally sitting and sweating. So it's already 81 in Orlando. Jeez, man. I would see, like, I would move to Florida for the activities, the beach. It's just the heat, man. It's too much. Like, it's just way too much. Way, way too much. I couldn't do it. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Beetlejuice 2. I think that's coming out this fall, if I'm correct. And I'm excited to see that. I just wish they would have done it sooner. Like, they wait too long to do these movies. Yeah, DW. Prosecutors against Karen could be considered The Walking Dead. Yeah, this week's going to be hot. Yes, the humidity is just too much. Too much. Like, I literally, it's warm in my house right now. It's probably about 74 degrees, and I'm sweating. Sweating. Sweating, sweating, sweating. Don't move to Florida. We are a dumpster fire. It was a great state until everybody started mass exiting around the pandemic. And what you had was you had all these people, and I'm going to get a little political here, all the people from up north, the blue states, or the people out west in the blue states, they all moved into Florida. Well, a lot of people don't realize is that when they move, their politics don't change. So they just bring all those politics into those local areas. So Florida is way too much for me. Too much humidity and heat. 64 in Western Mass. Nice. Let's see. Do not move here as a native. I've been trying so everybody tries to leave, but we all want to move in. AH says, good morning. Getting my coffee ready and some justice for Karen Reed. All right, so let me just throw this question out there, and I got a poll at the top of the chat. And right now I got, let's see, Karen Reed is 3% of the people watching this think that she's guilty. 97% say that she's not guilty. So I'm going back to what Alan Jackson said. Alan Jackson said it's only going to take him about 4 days to present his case in front of the jury. And I was thinking about this morning. I'm like, 4 days? I mean, pretty much all the Commonwealth witnesses have essentially sunk themselves. I mean, Trooper Proctor is going to be in a lot of trouble today, as we saw the preview of it the other day. I started wondering, and we've heard a lot about the federal investigation. Now I'm wondering, are they going to actually have a federal agent come in and testify? Could that be a possibility? Could it be a possibility? I'm asking all you in the room. Do you think that Karen Reed's defense has a federal agent that will come in and testify to just maybe certain things in the case, data that they extracted, data that they found, uh, any type of information, maybe a witness that came forward, maybe someone flips? What do you think? They can't testify. Why couldn't a federal agent testify? A lot of people are split on this. Yes, no. They aren't allowed to testify? Interesting. Why would they not be allowed? Maybe someone can clear that up. Yeah, it's funny. We had the Commonwealth pushing pretty hard the other day with a motion to try to not get some of the defense witnesses to testify. And again, I'm just sitting here and I'm going, well, why are they pushing so hard on this? Because they know that Karen's team is correct in this case. And I was like thinking again this morning, I really think that I think Brian Higgins knows a lot what went on in that house. Now, I can't say what went on in the house. I think we have a pretty good idea. We all have our theories. But I go back to Brian Higgins and Brian Albert Sr. and Jennifer McCabe. Jennifer McCabe was a big part of the after part, the cover up. Because you have to keep remembering, at 227, they had no idea at that point in time that Karen Reed's taillight was cracked until she told them that morning. So all the way up until 227, it was the cover up to cover up the beating and thrashing of John O'Keefe at that point. And then that morning is when all the big conspiracy and getting Karen involved in this and blaming this on Karen. So I still go back and think the three major players, and of course now we're seeing Trooper Proctor, but I'm going to say the three major players at that house. And I know a lot of people say Colin. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure on him yet. I think maybe he could have gotten involved. Maybe he took a cheap shot at John while they were wrestling around. But I still think the three major players in all of this is Higgins, Brian Albert Sr., and of course, Jennifer McCabe. That's where I'm at. And I go back to the testimony of Higgins, and I look at his face, and I look at him lying on the stand, and I'm like, he knows something. And then I go back to the text messages between him and Karen. You know, was it a thing that John maybe saw the text messages or knew about the text messages or knew about Brian Higgins texting Karen? John is drinking. He wants to go over and confront Brian Higgins that night at 34 Fairview. Karen and John have a fight inside the car and said, I really don't want to go in there. This is foolish. John insists, drops him off, goes inside the house. A fight breaks out and it gets out of control. And then they don't want to be blamed for it. So who are they going to blame? The last person that was with John, Karen Reed. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with this. And the unfortunate thing is we're never going to really know what happened. What I do know that John O'Keefe was never hit by Karen. John O'Keefe was dropped off at 34 Fairview and Karen went home to John's house. I do know that. Never struck John. And whatever happened inside that house, they all know. But we're never going to really know the absolute, perfect picture of it unless someone comes out and they flip. So, but I mean, going back to that timeline and looking at, Jennifer McCabe, when we timed it out, we played the videos to it and looking at her call logs and just looking at that timeline. She is texting, deleting, calling, deleting, texting, deleting. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? If you have nothing to hide, and you know that there could be a potential investigation, why wouldn't you just keep all that data on your phone and then hand it over to police and say, here? And then it's just that, the craziness of the 3 searches at 6 o'clock, 6 or 30ish in the morning. She confesses to that and say, oh yeah, those are there, but the 227 never happened, but we literally have it on a Celebrite report. And Brian Higgins's buddy, and what is it? What's his last name? Not Mensch, Welch. Is his FBI buddy testified in court during the Aaron Hernandez trial and literally said how accurate Celebrite reports are. Yeah, I mean, Casey brings up a good point. Imagine if Karen was calling and texting all night and then deleting all that. That would be very suspicious. Kelch. I said Welch. Thank you, Kelch. But the only one that was deleting stuff was everybody in that house. Jennifer McCabe, Brian Higgins destroys his phone. Brian Albert Sr. destroys his phone. Like, I mean, this is all very, very highly suspicious activity. Highly, highly suspicious. And you look at Karen Reed. Karen Reed didn't delete anything off her phone. So we'll see what happens today. Good morning, everybody. I said Welch, Kelch. There's so many names. So many names. So I'm looking at the poll right now. Let's see. Let me refresh it. Poll at the top. Karen Reed is not guilty, is guilty. 3% guilty. So 3% watching today think that she's guilty. 97% of you think that she's not guilty. I wish I could just do this. Like, I won't get on anybody, and I don't want the chat to get on anybody. But I just really want to hear the point of view from the people that think Karen is guilty. If you're brave enough to type that in the chat, just give us a couple of reasons why you think Karen is guilty. I don't want anybody to jump on these people. I just want to hear their side of the story, because I'll be honest with you. I mean, if I was completely neutral in this case and I was on that jury and I was looking, I really haven't seen anything. And maybe one of the people, the 3% people in the chat that do think that Karen's guilty, could point something out in the testimony that points to her guilt. I haven't seen any of that yet. I literally have not seen any of that. Karen is guilty because of Turtle Boy. Let's see. TB said last night that close sources told him today is going to have major bombshells. Interesting. Well, we'll see what happens. I haven't heard anything from my sources. It's been very quiet. It's been quiet on the LTL camp. But I know that I was watching a little bit of his show last night, and someone was saying that Jennifer McCabe was going to flip. That's the rumor that's out there. And he said, you know what? I'm not gonna go off internet rumors, and I respect that, because it is just a rumor. We don't know. Yeah, I mean, listen, I just want to hear, I want to hear what people think. And then Feeling Froggy says, personally, I don't even think they've proved the DUI. Yeah, I mean, that's all over the place. The DUI is all over the place. I think that what DW is saying, we'll go back to that comment about DW, is that, the reporting, Turtle Boy doing the reporting, putting everything out there. I think that's probably what he means, is that putting all this stuff out there. Tyrone says, stop with the bombshells. The entire case is won. Yeah, you're true. Very, very true. Froggy says, I believe all cops were drinking and driving. Everybody was drinking and driving that night. And there was a lot of underage drinking that night, too. Keep that in mind. But I try to see through this with clarity. What puts Karen in a position to say that she's guilty? I haven't seen anything yet. So we'll see what happens today. Underage drinking in a cop's house. Yeah, very good point, Sarah. Very, very good. Right, here comes court. Like we do, we'll minimize in the corner. I heard some sound. Like I said, I'm gonna take you up as long as I can today, but I do have to work at noontime today. So I appreciate everybody hanging out here. But I would say this: after you're done with me, go head over to Melanie Little, support her today if you want to continue watching the testimony. I don't know who else is streaming, but I would point you in the direction of Melanie Little. She's great. She's a really good friend of mine. Yes. So Feeling Froggy said, I don't believe the 3% in your bowl, considering the number of people in your chat at that time. If they truly thought she was guilty, they wouldn't have been in here that early. Well, I started to respect to uh the poll. I did stop at a couple. I started a couple minutes into the stream. I did hear some sound, but I don't know. We'll await. I saw the Boston Herald this a couple of days ago. I picked one up at the first day that Proctor was on yesterday's paper. It said on the front of the paper, and it had a Trooper Proctor's name up there. It said Proctor exam, and I know exactly what they were getting at with that headline. Yeah, the 3% could be an accident. Could be. Yeah, Mark is really good. I'm gonna try to get Mark and Melanie on at some point. I think when the defense starts their case. I know and definitely I want to reach out to Mark and get him on at some point. I think when the defense starts, I think it would be great to have him over here. I know he's doing a lot of shows right now, so he's kind of hard to get. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have Jess Machado. Jess is in the court today, from what I understand. I'm going to have Jess Machado on tomorrow night, which is going to be great, along with Maz Media. I think that's going to be a great show. That'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night. Hey, I had a hell of a morning show yesterday. Thank you all for doing that and being here. I had almost 2,000 people watching. That was great. I like the morning shows are fun sometimes. Let's see. AJ says, I also tune in to Melanie for the trial and then watch everyone else at night. That's awesome. I'd love to get Emily over here. I'm going to reach out to her and see if I can get her. I know she's probably going to be a tough one to get, but I'd love to get her on. Be great. I think she might pause and talk some of it. I'm not too sure. Like I said, I don't really watch other creators. I might pop in their chats every now and then, but I like to keep my perspective clear on the case and not really feed off anybody else's streams. I kind of and I mean, and lastly, I just don't have time. That's the thing. When you're a creator and you're working a full-time job and then doing creation full-time job and then balancing all your relationships and friendships in life, it's a lot. It's really a lot. So I just don't have the time. That's the thing. Oh, thank you, Active. Thank you. I appreciate that. We try. We try over here. I like your avatar. That's cool. Very tropical. Well, I heard sound. Did you all see what happened in the Young Thug uh Rico case? His lawyer got thrown in jail for contempt. The guy literally was taking his jacket and his tie off before they arrested him. Oh, it's crazy. Did you all see that? The Young Thug trial? Yeah, it's crazy, right? I've never seen a lawyer get arrested on live TV for contempt. Wow. I've never seen that. I thought that was only like, a stiff warning. I've never actually seen a judge do that before. Yeah, I wish I would have followed that from the beginning, Rich. It's crazy. I do know that I'm probably
You are unmuted.
all the Rush trial with Alec Baldwin. That's going to be a big case. All right, here we go. We got court. I'm going to minimize.
Hear ye. All persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly Canoni, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court in and for the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now open. You may be seated.
22-117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Great. Good morning, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. Few things. First of all, let me ask you those 3 questions, please. Were you all able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone suspected? Everyone said yes and nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation? Everyone said yes and nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left here the other day? Everyone said no. So by now you know one of your jurors is no longer able to participate in this case. You may know why, but it's my job to tell you that it's personal to that juror. It has nothing to do whatsoever with this case, and you're not to consider that. And there's one instruction I need to give you. You'll remember that when digital evidence or text messages were introduced earlier, I gave you an instruction. I'm required to give you this instruction again. Before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must first find that it's more likely true than not that the person who authored or sent or transmitted the message was in fact the person identified as doing so. If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that the witness or the other people in the text message thread was the person who authored or created or transmitted the communication, then you may not consider that communication in deciding that case. So it's an instruction I'm required to give you. I should have given it to you on Monday. All right, with that, can we bring the witness in, please?
Step and remain standing, face the clerk to be sworn in.
It's almost for the evidence of the court during the case now. We're going to retrieve the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Good morning, Trooper.
Yes, sir.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Your Honor, as a matter of housekeeping, I would move to admit the packet of text messages with date stamps inclusive of 02680, 02685 that was referred to on Monday.
Is there an objection to the written one coming in?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Why don't I see you at sidebar on this?
Are we ever going to start this trial on time and not have to sidebar everything? This is insane. Like, she can never just get something going in the morning. She'll always get a sidebar. So I was talking about, I put the comment in there. I find it funny that the Commonwealth's case has been built mostly off text messaging, and Bev always explains those instructions in the morning. It's kind of like you should have very selective, what am I trying to say here? Selection of the text messages. Because, I mean, essentially all of the text messages that have come out or been pointed out that by the Commonwealth have essentially sunk them. Aiden's in court today. Do I see Jess? I don't see Jess there. Maybe Jess didn't make it today. Oh, yeah, there she is. Green dress. Hey, Jess. See you tomorrow night. But it's almost like, if anything that helps the Commonwealth, which not anything is really helping them, Those are the text messages they want to pay attention. But anything that's really bad, like the stuff we're going to hear that we heard on Monday and we're going to hear today, it's kind of like, oh, jurors, you know what we said, just any text messages that are being considered in this case, I'm hoping to get in and sit in one more time. No, I get it. I get it's the law, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my interpretation of it. Maybe because I'm just so pro Karen Reed. Oh my God, these sidebars are dreadful. And they're even longer when you're sitting in court. Really? Vinny said that Lally could still get a conviction? I don't think so. There's so much reasonable doubt in this case. There's so much sloppy police work. And if the jurors don't see past that, I don't see it happening. I mean, from what I saw in there, the jurors, the body language, I mean, they're done. I mean, some of them just staring straight ahead when Lally's talking, and I didn't see them in tune with Lally at all. When Alan Jackson spoke the day I was in there, hell yeah, they were paying attention.
Unmuted.
All right, here we go.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
One more matter of housekeeping. I have another set of iOS messages that are inclusive of pages 2527 through 2545. I'd like to have these marked as for identification as next in order.
All right. If you have any others, let's have them all marked for identification at the same time.
Your Honor, may I stand at counsel table to
Yeah, sure.
deal with this?
And let's try and do it quickly. It's just for Mr. Jackson, let's try and do it quickly. It's just for identification.
Yes, these are all just for identification.
Yep.
I'll give the court the inclusive base stamp number. Next packet would be 2680 through 2685. Sorry, that was the first one.
Right.
Mark's easy. The second one is 2527 through 2545. The next set would be a single page 2625.
Excuse me.
The next packet would be 2662 and 2679. The next is just 2 pages, 2623 and 2624. The next packet would be 2518 and 2526. Following that, 2618 and 2620.
It's a
Then
lot
packet
of
2628
Oh shit.
and 2634, and finally,
That's a thick packet.
packet inclusive of 2583 to 2617.
Oh boy.
All right, Madam Court Reporter, if you'd be so kind, please. Thank you.
Book report time. Paula. That's a good one. Come on, I gotta go.
Yes.
Testimony in. I only got a certain amount of time today. Oh, I wanted to see this go down. Come on. Oh, this poor lady. What a hard job she has. She's got a tough job. Commend that court reporter. That's a job that I could not handle. You got to keep all that evidence straight. I mean, that is a lot. Yes. And then having to speak all her voice must just be shot at the end of the day. Oh man, this is so stressful. No, I think Jackson always had him. I think Jackson was going to handle Proctor. He's the best suited for it, in my opinion. Nothing again, not taking anything away from David Unetti. I think that style, when Jackson digs in, is the perfect style to get all these people. And just David has his different style. But I think it was always going to be Jackson. And I'm wearing my Action Jackson shirt today. I wish I could have made these, but it's not my picture, so. Oh, come on. This is killing me. I want to hear some of this today. We only got a limited amount of time.
through Triple H.
Thank you.
for identification.
Thank you. All right, go right ahead,
All right,
Mr.
here we go.
Jackson.
Trooper Proctor, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind to turn to tab 2 in the binder in front of you.
One juror dropped out.
Can you take a look at the face page of what's under tab 2 and tell me if you recognize that?
Is that confirmed?
Yes, sir. It's a private text thread with high school friends.
And this includes 9 participants, 9 chat participants that you engaged with.
That's correct.
Those participants include people by the name of Bird, Whitey, and Doc, correct?
Correct.
And then there's some other folks in there. They're identified by at least the last 4 digits of their phone number, correct?
Yes.
So this is a group text or a group chat with you and 8 of your high school friends about this investigation, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, you never thought when you were engaged with these other 8 individuals that this particular set of chats would ever become public, did you?
No, I do not.
I want to take a look at page 2527. If you could turn, that's on the bottom right of the document in tab 2. Do you recognize, I'm sorry, do you have that page in front of you?
Yes, sir.
You recognize that this chat, this group chat was taking place on January 29th at about 10:52 p.m., correct?
Correct.
And the person that I'll identify as 5051, that's the last 4 digits of that phone number, indicates Chip, name of that BPD cop, correct?
Correct.
First of all, you indicated on Monday that you're Chip, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You responded at 10:53 p.m., John O'Keefe, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you were willing to tell just a few hours into an investigation
Wow.
of the death of a Boston police officer.
Wow.
You were willing to tell a bunch of high school buddies details about the investigation, including the name of the victim, correct?
At this point, it's 16 hours later, sir. Not a few.
16 is a few hours, correct? I'm not talking about days later.
It was about 16 hours later, sir.
Correct. And you identified John O'Keefe as the Boston police officer who is fallen in the yard at 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
You also informed, if you will skip to page 2529, you also informed these same folks, these same high school buddies that, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP, correct?
Yes.
You knew, Trooper Proctor, that there was brass that wanted this case wrapped up quickly and efficiently. Isn't that right?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Is that what you were thinking?
No, the people wanted answers, sir.
They wanted it. They didn't just want answers. They wanted answers ASAP. What does ASAP mean?
That's as soon as possible.
Right. And you were texting this to your high school friends, again, 16 hours into this investigation, right?
Correct.
And you knew at that time, Trooper Proctor, that this was not going to implicate in any way, shape, form, or fashion another cop, correct?
Correct.
In this text exchange, let's turn to 2532, actually. You have that in front of you?
I do.
In this text exchange at 10:56 p.m., your buddy Bird writes, "I'm sure the owners of the house will receive some shit." Correct?
Correct.
How did you take that to mean? Did you take that to mean that he could get in trouble?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what my friend was getting at.
Well, you
Won't
had
look
some
past
idea.
him.
Yeah, I maybe
Said the
won't
owners
look
of the house
past
isn't going to get any shit for this,
Right.
right?
that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, you interpreted it like he's not going to get in any trouble. He's not going to be a suspect,
He won't
correct?
look up.
Correct.
And he's not
He's
going
a
to be
shameful
implicated in
man.
any way. Is that right?
Correct.
And your answer was one word, correct?
Yes.
What was that word?
Nope.
And then you followed that up with an explanation as to why you said no, didn't you?
That wasn't the explanation why I said nope. I simply said homeowner is a Boston cop too, meaning Mr. O'Keefe was a Boston cop. The homeowner is a Boston cop as well.
The question that preceded your answer, nope, the homeowner's a Boston cop too, was the homeowner's going to get some shit for this, correct?
That's not what I meant with that text.
That's what you wrote.
Not what I meant, sir.
All right, let's take it in order. Question. Oh goodness, the homeowner's going to get some shit for this. Answer, nope. Next text, he's a Boston cop too. That doesn't sound like an explanation for your nope.
No, that's just saying he's a Boston cop as well. Mr. O'Keefe is a
And that's
Boston cop.
why he's not going to get any shit. Correct, Trooper Proctor?
Well, he's not going to receive any shit, sir, because he had Mr. Albert, the homeowner, had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
And you knew this 16 hours into your investigation.
Yes.
Less than a day.
Yes.
To your satisfaction.
To my satisfaction
And
and
you
to the
had
members
been
of my
to the
unit.
crime scene.
So let him finish. We didn't get the, finish
Some-
your answer?
To my satisfaction and to all the members of my unit who investigated that day.
Objection. Calls for speculation.
So I'm going to let it stand. Trooper Proctor, you have to keep your voice up, okay? Jurors need to hear you way back there.
Yes, ma'am.
The fact of the matter is, you hadn't been to the crime scene by the time you wrote this text, correct?
Correct.
You hadn't been inside the home, correct?
No.
You had you had questioned a grand total of 3 percipient witnesses at this point, correct?
Yes.
And 2 of the 3 were named McCabe, right?
Correct.
And 1 of the 3 was named Albert, correct?
Yes.
And it's against that backdrop that you wrote, nope, the homeowner's not going to get any shit because he's a cop, right?
That's not what I meant by that.
At 10:57, Bird goes on to write, he, the homeowner, must have been a puddle to accomplish that. And then he writes, who's the homeowner? Then he writes, I hope not, but I can see it. Correct?
Yes.
A puddle means drunk, correct?
That's a term for it, yes.
In other words, Bird wrote that the homeowner must have been so drunk, so wasted to have killed him. Correct?
Objection.
Do you know what that means? Do you know what that text means?
Just the puddle part, Your Honor. That term.
All right, so he can answer that.
And the puddle part means drunk or wasted, right?
Yes.
And what Bird actually wrote was, he must have been a puddle to accomplish that. Correct?
That's what he wrote.
And then you write back, quote, she waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital, right?
Correct.
You used the phrase waffled about a Boston police officer who had fallen in the snow and died in someone's yard. And you decided to use the word waffled him, correct?
Objection.
So sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Did you answer, she waffled him, I looked at his body at the hospital?
I did answer that, yes.
And then Bird questioned, she waffled him, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, he was banged up. Is that right?
Yes,
Then a person with the phone number 0095 wrote, I thought he was drunk. Did he get beat up? You see that?
I do.
And you wrote, nope. Is that right?
Correct.
Yet again, this is before 11 o'clock at night on January 29th, 2022, some 16 hours into your investigation. Is that right?
Yes,
So before you ever went to the crime scene, before you ever went into the house, only having interviewed 3 folks, you had this case nice and wrapped up, didn't you?
yes. Based on the evidence my office uncovered that day, the one shoot discovered at the scene, the one shoot at the hospital, Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, the broken taillight pieces underneath the snow.
Super Proctor, I didn't ask for information. I asked, did you, in your mind, have this case wrapped up? Was it cut and dry in your mind?
Yes,
Bird then writes, so the owner of the house was a woman. Sorry, was a woman cop that beat him? Question mark, right?
Yes.
And then you wrote, that's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics. Is that right?
yes,
And then you said, then I saw the guy, correct?
correct.
So what you meant by that, Trooper Proctor, was according to you, based on your conversations, your initial conversations with the paramedics, the first responders, you were under the impression that this was a beating death. He'd been beaten to death, correct?
The way it was given to me, sir, was
That's yes
for
or no?
medical.
That's yes
No,
or no?
he's going to answer the question. If you want
Go
to
ahead.
withdraw the question, you can.
No, go ahead.
We entered this investigation with an open mind. It was given to me as a medical situation. And when we saw Mr. O'Keefe's body at the hospital with Sergeant Buchanan and I, we saw his injuries and we were kind of working through how these injuries occurred.
As a matter of fact, both you and Sergeant Buchanan believed that he had suffered the injuries as a result of a physical altercation based on information you received from the paramedics initially, correct?
Initially, we didn't know what we had. We knew there was some significant injuries to Mr. O'Keefe. And we're still figuring out how those injuries occurred.
Well, you just testified. Initially, we didn't know what we had.
Right.
But 16 hours after the fact, you wrote the following sentence. That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics, correct?
Correct.
So initially, you did think you knew what you had, a physical altercation leading to a death, correct?
Correct.
So when you just said, initially we didn't know what we had, that wasn't quite true. You did at least have an idea of what you thought you had, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right. You were aware initially
Excuse me.
that John O'Keefe had suffered a 2-inch laceration to the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
That resulted in a skull fracture, correct?
Correct.
He had a laceration over his right eye, small laceration just under the eyebrow, correct?
Yes.
Had a laceration on his nose. Is that right?
Correct.
He had patterned scratches on his right arm, abrasions, scratches, correct?
Yes.
And he had no injuries below the neck.
Not that I observed, sir.
Not a single broken bone, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single fracture, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single bruise below the neck, right?
Not that I observed.
Looks a lot like a physical altercation, doesn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
He's a shameful man. Look at him.
Bird writes, Bear, let's focus, correct?
Yes.
Who's Bear?
That's another nickname I have.
This guy's a-
0095 writes, what does she waffled him mean? And then Bird writes, what's the story, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote, she hit him with her car. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen, in your experience, have you ever seen a pedestrian who's hit by a 6,000-pound car with no bruises? Ever?
Answer the question, sir. No.
The pedestrian strikes I've seen have been at high speeds.
And that's
60
enough
plus.
A person out of a shoe, right?
60 plus miles per hour. So I can't recall right now off the top of my head as far as injuries in the past pedestrian strikes I've attended.
Okay. So someone, you indicated on Monday, under examination by Mr. Lally, you've seen a shoe missing,
Correct.
pedestrian strikes, correct?
Yes.
Those are high speed, extremely high speed incidents, correct?
Yes.
60 plus miles an hour, right?
I can't recall all the pedestrian strikes I've been to as far as the miles per hour the vehicle is traveling.
So Proctor, let me ask you the question again. Have you ever, yes or no, have you ever in your experience seen a vehicle pedestrian incident in which the pedestrian has no bruises?
Objection.
Have you seen that?
I can't recall.
Next question.
After you wrote, she hit him with her car, 5051 writes, oh, Jesus. And Bird writes, okay, that's fucked up, correct?
Correct.
And then you wrote what?
Intentional or not?
Intentional or not? Is that right?
Yes.
Your words.
Correct.
0095 then chimes in, gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him? Question mark, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote what?
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
That's another animal we won't be able to prove, correct?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you knew that there were going to be things in this case, even 16 hours into this, that you just admitted
Proof.
you would have zero proof of, correct?
Objection. Fuck.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did you mean by that statement that this was one of several things that you knew we would not be able to prove?
Oh my God.
That statement, that's another animal we won't be able to prove, references the intentional or not part.
You didn't care at that point when you wrote that, you didn't care what you could or could not prove, did you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Isn't that what you meant?
No.
You had a narrative that you had developed and you would pursue it no matter what the proof was. That's what you meant by that statement, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did you mean by that, thank you, Your Honor, I didn't mean to step on your words. Did you mean by that statement that you were going to pursue this case no matter what the proof might be?
Oh my God.
What I meant by that statement was if Miss Reed backed into Mr. O'Keefe intentionally or not.
Interestingly, though, that statement came on the heels of he was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him. And you wrote in response to that question, that's another animal we won't be able to prove. Correct?
That's not what I was responding to. I was responding to the intentional or not part.
So you were responding to your own statement.
Correct.
Okay. 0095 then writes, what's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton? The other one involved. Correct?
Yes.
In other words, that person was asking, tell me the name of the homeowner. Isn't that right?
Yes.
The guy that's the cop, right?
Correct.
And you ignored that question for a second time. Is that right?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, not one time, not once in this entire group chat did you disclose the name Brian Albert, did you?
I don't believe so, no.
You were actively trying to hide Brian Albert's name, at least from this conversation.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you were trying to do?
Wow.
Absolutely not.
But you had no problem sharing John O'Keefe's name with your buddies from high school, right?
Correct.
And you had no problem sharing Karen Reed's name with your buddies from high school, correct?
The
Don't
text was-
believe I named the defendant.
Not yet, you didn't. Later in the chat.
Okay, correct.
Patrick, thank you.
5051 then writes, the BPD have any jurisdiction here because it was their own? Question mark. Is that right?
Yes.
And a few texts later, if you look down a few texts, at about 11 o'clock, You see a text that starts nah, cat.
Wow, he
I do,
won't
sir,
even
yes.
look at Jackson.
You responded, quote, nah, N-A-H, nah, cat, K-A-T-T. It's the total opposite. They have to recuse themselves. Same with Canton, correct?
That text ends as they have to recuse themselves.
You then text back, I'm sorry, can I have a moment?
Yes.
Flip the next page.
I see where you're at, sir.
How did you end that text?
Same with Canton.
Meaning Canton has to recuse itself also, correct?
That was my understanding.
So by 11 p.m. on January 29th, 2022, there was no question in your mind, Trooper Proctor, that the Canton Police Department was recused from this investigation in all particulars, correct?
That they had taken a step back from participating, yes.
Right. Well, there's one way to put it. They've taken a step back from participating. Another way to put it is they recused themselves completely, correct?
Correct.
They were not going to be, at least in your mind, they were not to be involved in any way, just like Boston PD was not to be involved in any way. Is that right?
Objection.
Is that what you were thinking?
It was my understanding they were not going to be involved.
Ed
Now-
Brown, a lot of stuff today.
If we could turn to page 2537.
I want to see Karen.
5051 writes, but I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops, correct?
Yes.
And Berg writes, something stinks, correct?
Correct.
And then Trooper Proctor, you responded, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
That's right.
So in that text exchange, you were saying, yeah, we're out to make it cut and dry, correct?
No.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to follow the evidence wherever it takes us. You didn't, did you?
I did not write that.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to make sure that we investigate this thing fully and thoroughly before making any decisions. You didn't say that, did you?
I did not.
You wrote, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And the reason you wrote that is because you knew, as the text above it says, this has to be cut and dry because it involves cops, right?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Is that the reason you wrote it?
No, Your Honor.
And then you indicated, we're going to put serious charges on the girl. Who did you mean by the girl, by the way?
The defendant.
Karen Reed?
Yes, sir.
So the way that you were going to make it cut and dry, pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Is that right?
Absolutely not. Follow the facts and the evidence from that day on the 29th. And everything led to Miss Reed hitting Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
But that wasn't the question that you were answering, was it? We're going to follow the evidence and make sure we do this thoroughly. The question you were answering was, I assume you guys, you, Trooper Proctor, and your team are going to, quote, make it cut and dry since it involves cops, meaning Brian Albert, correct?
Incorrect. Doesn't matter to me if the homeowner's a cop, if the victim's a police officer. Myself and everyone in my office investigated this case that Saturday, had an overwhelming amount of evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe. So it didn't matter to us what their occupation was.
We'll see. Let's keep reading, shall we? 5051, a little further down, says, gotta be, I could only imagine what internal affairs at BPD are trying to get out there. Correct?
Correct.
Meaning, this person, 5051, was opining, at least in your mind, you interpreted that as being Boston police are going to have a lot to answer for, given the fact that another Boston police officer was found dead on that officer's lawn. Correct?
Objection.
What were you thinking?
Can't speak to the mindset to that comment. I wasn't sure how to interpret that one.
All right, next question, Mr. Jackson.
Then 5051 changes gears. And he writes, She hot at least,
Oh,
correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt.
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
16 hours into this investigation,
Yes.
into your objective and unbiased, thorough investigation, correct?
Correct.
But sir, you didn't have all accounts, did you?
dude, you're done.
What I meant by that was
Did you or did you not have all accounts
He's
in your
done.
investigation?
the accounts we had was Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, discovered taillight pieces at the scene. Those are the accounts we had.
The accounts
And then
you
some.
had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The accounts you had, Trooper Proctor, were from two people named McCabe and one named Albert, who happened
Right.
to be the homeowner and a Boston cop. Those are the accounts from percipient witnesses that you had, correct?
This guy
There
already
was
made
another
his mind
additional
up.
witness that we had, investigators had interviewed, Miss Roberts as well.
And from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. That was your decision 16 hours
Yep.
into the investigation, correct?
Exactly.
And the other decision that you made and the other determination you came to was my client, Karen Reed, was a whack job cunt, right?
Yes.
What else did you say in response to she's hot at least? Or she hot at least, question mark.
So following that text, I responded,
Thank you.
yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Yeah, she's a babe. Who's the she?
Miss Reed.
Weird Fall River accent, though. You talking
Who's
about her,
that?
the way she talks?
The accent.
And no ass. Now you're talking about her body, her physique, correct?
Yes.
You think that's appropriate?
Absolutely not.
This guy's
Then
a
Bird
piece of
chimes
shit.
in
Needs
with
to
a
be
little comedy.
fired.
Ah, not newsworthy then, correct?
Correct.
In other words, well, she didn't have an ass. Nothing to see here, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then 5051 says, oh, she's skating, right?
Correct.
And what did you write after that?
My response was zero chance she skated.
And then what did you write?
She's fucked.
Zero chance she skates. She's fucked, right?
Correct.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's fucked. That's what you were saying.
Objection.
All right, so that's sustained. You can, the content's fine. You have to ask it differently.
17 hours into this investigation, Trooper Proctor, you made the decision that you were going to put it on Miss Reed, didn't you? Put the case on Miss Reed. She was going to catch the case, correct?
No, absolutely not.
This guy's lying.
What did you mean then when you said she's fucked?
After the day's investigation with multiple troopers conducting multiple tasks, and a debriefing at Canton PD amongst detectives in my office,
Before that,
we went
sir,
through the overwhelming amount of evidence against Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. That's what I meant by that comment.
this is 17 hours before, sir.
What you meant by that
17
comment,
hours
Trooper
into the
Proctor, was
investigation.
you were going to make sure because
Right.
5051 had said she's going to skate. She's skating. When you said zero chance she skates, she's fucked. What you meant was, I'm going to make sure.
Yep.
I am going to make sure Ms. Reed doesn't skate. She's fucked. That's what you meant, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then Bird decides to chime in, good, no ass bitch, right?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And how did you respond to Bird saying, good, no ass bitch?
I laughed.
Thought that was funny, did you?
Jackson.
Trooper Proctor? Thought that was funny?
It was unprofessional of me. That's something I shouldn't have done.
Well, I think we all know it was unprofessional. It was a lot of things. I'm asking
Yep.
you, did you think it was funny?
No, according to my response at the time,
Jackson wants that guy.
apparently.
Then you sent a picture, just to add to it, to pile on, of Miss Reed being arrested, correct?
I don't. Not sure if that came from me, sir.
He didn't.
Let's skip to 2543. Are you there, Trooper Proctor?
Yes.
The date is now February 2nd, 2022. A person by the name of Doc writes, is that chick a smoke? Correct?
Correct.
Who's the chick?
Misread.
And you write E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write nutbag, as Chief would say, correct?
Correct.
Who's Chief?
A friend of mine.
And then you write what?
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
Trooper Proctor, explain to the jurors what a balloon knot is.
Your essentially, I guess, your rectum area.
Your anus?
Yes.
That's what you were referring to about Miss Reed?
Oh, God.
Yes.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked? That's how you were treating Miss Reed?
How embarrassing.
Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you followed that up just to make sure you cleared up any mistake about what you meant with leaks poo, correct?
Objection.
All right, so I'm going to strike that. You can get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
You followed that up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Again, another reference to Miss Reed's medical issues and medical conditions, correct?
Correct.
Specifically focused on her anus, correct?
In reference, yes.
Were you aware at the time that you wrote this that Miss Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery, very serious surgery?
That was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months, several years prior? 10.
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that she had serious medical issues, gastrointestinal medical issues that she suffered with, she was a victim of for years? Did you know that?
Objection.
Sustained.
But you decided that you're going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy. 1 second, sir. Sorry. I'm sorry. You decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy as a balloon knot, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
At this point, Trooper Proctor, Miss Reed was just reduced to a punchline to you, wasn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you weren't done yet. This chat doesn't end yet, does it?
No, sir.
He can't.
Let's skip to
It's in
2543.
black and white, Lori. I mean, it's there. He said it.
On the same date, February 2nd, 2022, about 4:15 p.m., a person by the name of Whitey wrote, "What are you guzzling on?" Correct?
Yes,
And you wrote, "Nothing," writing a warrant. Is that right?
correct.
Why did you then share some sort of a video? Correct?
Yes,
You remember that video being of the 1980s band Warrant?
I don't recall the video he sent.
0095 laughed and then wrote, "Wait, why does her asshole leak?"
Ugh.
Correct?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And then what did Doc write in response to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. I'll see you, sidebar. Take that down, please.
What a disgusting, vile, I don't even want to call him a human being. This human is just garbage. This is embarrassing. This is for the world to see. And I can only commend Karen for keeping her head up high, looking at this jackass in the face, and having him have to go through all of those disgusting text messages that he sent about her to his buddies. 16 hours into an investigation, he had already made his mind up that she was guilty based off 3 conversations, Albert's and McCabe's. To hide this, to not implicate, to not even put in the thought
You are unmuted.
of another officer being involved in this. It's the most vile thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Take that- Take that down.
Without reference to the specifics of what was.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar.
Sure.
How this guy is still employed is beyond me. He should be absolutely fired. Is not one citizen in the state of Massachusetts, there should not be one citizen in this country that should ever respect this person ever again. Because not only has he talked about Karen Reed this way, I guarantee you, other cases he's been involved with, this is the conversations that he has had behind the scenes. This guy took an oath to protect and serve the citizens, to take an oath of the mass police, to become a mass police state trooper, one of the highest regard officers in your state, a state cop. I wouldn't want this guy stopping me.
You are unmuted.
Be right back.
Trooper Proctor, without getting to the specifics of the words used in the following, in the next exchange that you're looking at, it's fair to say that your high school buddies then continue to discuss Ms. Reed's medical issues, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson. That isn't what you said you'd ask. Go ahead and ask the question you said you'd ask.
Was there a continued discussion that finished on this subject matter?
Yes,
On Monday, you indicated that your conduct in this case, and specifically your conduct as reflected in these messages, how did you put it? It did not affect the integrity of the investigation, of your investigation, correct? That's what you
Correct.
said to the jurors.
correct.
Do you know what the definition of integrity is?
Doing the right thing when no one's looking.
It's the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you believe that integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles?
I believe that's part of it as well.
Do you stand by that testimony that you were showing strong moral principles in this investigation, sir?
In the investigation part, absolutely. Through these text messages, absolutely not. They were juvenile and regrettable.
When you say they're juvenile and regrettable, sounds like you're almost apologizing to the jury for your conduct. Is that what you're doing?
For those texts,
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Trooper Proctor, have you ever apologized to Ms. Reed?
Objection.
Sustained.
As the lead investigator in this case, you were tasked with the responsibility of making sure that the investigation remained free of any conflicts of interest. It's part of your job, correct?
correct.
Throughout the pendency of this investigation, in this case, you've denied having any conflict of interest in this case. Isn't that right?
Correct.
In fact, a couple of months ago in February of 2024, you testified in a different proceeding. Is that right?
Yes.
And you testified under oath in that proceeding on February 1st that you did not know any members of the Albert family or McCabe family, correct?
Certain members of the Albert family I did not know. I know Chris and Julie and Colin. I don't know the McCabes.
That wasn't my question. Did you testify? Let's take them one at a time. Did you testify under oath, same oath you took here today, in a former proceeding in February of 2024, that you did not know and did not have any relationship with members of the Albert and McCabe families? Did you?
I haven't had a chance to review those minutes. I've only had one opportunity to, and that was a couple months ago. So I would want to review those minutes in order to answer that accurately.
You can't remember how you testified, whether or not you knew or had relationships with the Alberts and McCabes?
Objection.
Sustained.
As you sit here right now, you need to refresh your recollection. You can't remember what you said.
Objection.
Do you remember what you said?
During that proceeding, no.
Would it refresh your recollection if you took a look at those grand jury minutes?
Yes.
What page, Mr. Jackson?
This is page 01563.
What a day.
If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
So real quick, I just want to read this tweet. Aiden Carney, as Michael Proctor explains that he's making fun of Karen Reed's anus by calling it a balloon knot and mocking her for leaky poo, several female jurors look at him with disgusting looks on their faces.
If you'd review that and look up when you're finished.
Karen Reed, hold your head up high today. Hold your head up high today. And this too shall pass.
There, Your Honor.
Okay.
Did that refresh your recollection about a question and answer that you had, or series of questions and answers that you had while you were testifying under oath in that other proceeding?
Yes, sir.
Objection. May we approach?
Yes.
Excuse me. Wow. How embarrassing. I'm at a loss for words right now. I'm at a loss for words today. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't prepare myself for it to be this bad. How are you all feeling? I'm telling you, this behavior doesn't stop here with this guy. This is behavior that he partakes in through his whole life. That is the this is how this guy is. Yeah, you're right, Lori. We haven't seen that yet. MGI, thanks for the $2. Says I'm sick and I'm sad. Yeah, he's acting like a child. No, Lally's not throwing in a towel. They're going to push this all the way. I just want to make sure that you all understand that. This is going all the way.
You are unmuted.
It should be, Brooke, but it's not now. You know.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
All the way.
You were asked the question, quote, did you communicate with First Assistant DA Beeland that you did not know and had no relationship with the Albert and McCabe families? And you answered, quote, to the best of my recollection, the same conversation took place with everyone I talked to about this because it's the same answer. It's the facts that I shared with everyone. Question, meaning you told First Assistant Beeland that you didn't know, didn't have a relationships with
Objection, Your Honor.
members of the Albert and McCabe families. Answer, correct.
Yes, that's
So,
correct.
so your question is whether he said this?
Correct. Whether that's his testimony. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And that's your testimony that you, in fact, told members of the DA's office that you did not know and did not have a relationship with the Alberts or McCabe's. Is that right?
I did not know the McCabe's. I don't know most of the Alberts, and I have little to no relationship with Chris and Julie. So that's what I meant by that answer.
Well, the question wasn't, did you know most of the Alberts? The question was, did you have a relationship with, or did you know the Alberts? And your answer was no.
No, I don't have a relationship with the Alberts.
Or know them.
I don't know the McCabe's. I don't have a relationship with the Alberts.
So you do
You
know
asked-
the Alberts, correct?
I know some of them, Julie and Chris.
And Colin.
Well, you know them.
Correct, and Colin.
And you knew the Alberts when you gave this testimony in February of 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, they asked if there was any relationships.
And let's try this again. Meaning you told First Assistant Beeland that you didn't know, didn't have relationships with members of the Alberts and members of the Albert and McCabe families. Answer, correct.
Mhm.
Was that ambiguous in your mind?
The way I interpreted relationships was basically being like friends or,
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
communications, frequent communications. That's how I interpreted
Well, that might have been a
relations.
good time to pipe up and say, well, I know Chris and I know Julie and I know Colin, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
That might have been a good time to answer the question, I know these three individuals from the Albert family, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
But your answer was one word, correct, right?
Yes.
You further testified that you never have gone to any supervisor at Massachusetts State Police to disclose even a potential conflict of interest in this case that you might have, correct?
Correct.
And you indicated the needs never come up. Is that right?
Correct.
You also told ADA Lally that you, quote, did not have relationships or know members of the Albert or McCabe families, correct?
Correct.
And that's just not true, is it? You do know members of the Albert family. Isn't that right?
It's different from having a relationship with people.
But what about part of the question, did not have relationships or know members of the Albert or McCabe families? How about that part of the question.
Well, that's lumped in with the McCabe's. I don't know the McCabe family, sir.
I see. So what you did, Trooper Proctor, is you dissected the sentence, and where relationships are concerned, you ignored that in terms of the Alberts because you don't have relationships. Where no is concerned, you link that to the McCabe's because you don't know the McCabe's. That's what you did?
No.
So it's sustained. You can ask it. You can break it down, Mr. Jackson.
Not sure I can. I'll ask it a different way. How about if I just ask it this way? That was a lie, wasn't it?
No, absolutely not.
You stand by that testimony?
Yes.
That you don't know at the time that you testified, that you didn't know the Alberts or any members of the Albert family?
They don't have relationships with them.
Okay. My question is, you keep going back to relationships. I'm asking you, did you testify that you didn't know them?
Objection.
I'll let him have it. Do you understand the question, Trooper?
And it was Chris, Julie, and Colin.
So if you were to say, I don't know any members of the Albert family, that would have been a lie, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, this is the point at which I intend to turn to tab 3, and I believe we
Oh,
need
boy.
much.
Okay.
Worse
Jurors,
now.
feel free to stand.
It's a wild question. I'm looking at just a point that someone's making. Looking in the Facebook groups right now. It said, did I hear that Barros from Dighton PD was found by the defense team in 2023, and shortly after he gave his statement, he was hit by a drunk driver? I just kind of find that coincidence. I don't think that's any type of setup or anything like that. He was hit and struck by a drunk driver. And I know the road 44, Route 44, it's really dangerous. Let's look at tweets while we got this little sidebar. Aiden, let's see. Aiden says, Michael Proctor just did, this is from Aiden Carney, Dr. Turtleboy. Michael Proctor just admitted that he told the federal grand jury that he told Norfolk County DA's office that he didn't know the Alberts or the McCabe's. Video and photographic evidence shows that he's known Chris Albert, Julie Albert, and Colin Albert for almost 2 decades. His mother called the Alberts the second family to Proctor's. His sister Courtney said that he speaks to them at least 5 or 6 times a day, and his best friends were Julie Albert's sister. Let's see. Better Law chiming in 56 seconds is that this is pathetic. How anybody believes a word that Proctor says is beyond me. He is dumb, dishonest, crude, irresponsible, and many other things. He's going to try to explain his lie knowing some of the Alberts, and the cross still hasn't even gotten off the ground yet. Wow. The scary thing about this, Michael Proctor is the lead investigator in the Brian Walsh case. That scares me. I mean, it's pretty evident in my determination, and I know that I can have an opinion. I think Brian Walsh is absolutely guilty of the crime that he's being charged with, but what kind of implications is that going to have in that case? And I've covered that here, and I've done a lot of comparison, knowing that Trooper Proctor was the lead investigator on this case and that he was the lead in Brian Walsh's case. And we did a lot of compare and contrast. I remember doing 1 or 2 streams about that, how he highlighted all of the Google searches in Brian Walsh's case, all the internet searches in Brian Walsh's case, but all that information was left out in Karen Reed's case. And that was very, very incriminating information in Brian Walsh's case. Damn, if that case gets thrown out now, whew. Oh, what's Jennifer Coffindaffer saying? Jennifer Coffindaffer, 56 minutes ago. Jennifer Coffindaffer says, you know why I like Adam Lally? Here we go. Because he is honest. He works hard. He gets paid so little. He doesn't have flashy suits or shoes or flashy style. But he's very sincere. He isn't there to sell anyone a lemon of a used car. Only Jackson could do that. He is presenting evidence. Despite solo cups, grocery bags, and a lead detective with a potty mouth and an inappropriate sense of humor, Lally took this case because it is the right thing to do. He can sleep at night because he knows he is honest in doing his job, bringing the truth. Hashtag Karen Reed stands accused of murdering. Hashtag John O'Keefe. You know, the thing with Jennifer Coffindaffer is trying to resurrect her fucking failed career. She's essentially failed as an FBI agent. She has failed through her little Twitter career. She's jumped on YouTube shows. I'll admit, I've had Jennifer Coffindaffer on my channel before because I looked at her as someone that I respected before in her point of view in the Idaho case. That's why I had her on my channel. But I've learned to grow what type of person that she is. And she's going to stand with the bad guys. She's going to stand with this piece of shit today and say that he only has a potty mouth. Despite that, he's only got a potty mouth. Despite all the things that are up against Trooper Proctor today, she's got a potty mouth. She goes on Kevin's channel that gets literally like 70 viewers. Despite the fact that he's been all over Court TV, his sub count doesn't go up on his channel. I mean, that just tells you right there how people are thinking about this case. And in my opinion, these last 2 days in this case have said enough. I think has spoken for itself. You have a Mass State police trooper that's up on the stand that had already made the determination 16 hours into the investigation, has already made the determination that Karen Reed is absolutely guilty of this crime and that he is going to exonerate all of the other possibilities. Is there a possibility that a fight could have taken place in that house, but because of the status of the person that lived and owned, because of the status of the person that owns that house, a retired Boston police officer, people that he knew that were inside that house, he's going to put that out of the equation and start the frame job on Karen Reed after talking to 3 people that night. The McAlberts, the McCabe and the Alberts, and make his determination, and the fix was in. 16 hours, and hasn't visited the scene of the crime, hasn't looked at any piece of evidence, hasn't talked to any other witnesses, hasn't canvassed the neighborhood. 16 hours in, that's how he was talking to his close friends. And how anybody, if I was a trooper on the Mass State Police, I would walk by my head and keep my head down every time I pass this guy. Because that is not a quality, not an example of quality, not an example of upholding the law, not an example of taking that oath to serve and protect. This guy's garbage. And keep in mind, and I said this a couple of minutes ago, this is not the first time that he's talked like this. I guarantee he talks like this in every single case that he is involved in. And if I was you, and you live in the state of Massachusetts, I would petition for this guy to get fired. My friends, I only get a couple more minutes with you, and I do have to go. So I'm hoping we do get back to testimony. But I would say this, if you leave me, go check out Melanie Little, support her channel today. Oh, I know. Brooke, great question. What do you think the female Mass State troopers think today? So I'm going to have to wrap this up in about 15 minutes. And I do apologize. I have to go to my jobby. I don't want to go, but I got to. Maybe someday YouTube will be my permanent job. We'll see. But if it's not, it's been well worth spending all of this time with all of you.
You are unmuted.
Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Excuse me. No, we'll be recapping tomorrow night with Jess Machado and Maz Media. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I come back and do the Proctor testimony tonight. It's going to be late, though, if I do it. I don't know. It most likely be tomorrow night, but could be a possibility tonight. I'm not sure. Not too sure. See how work goes today.
Trooper Proctor, you've indicated that your sister is one of your best friends, maybe your best friend.
Yes,
Courtney Proctor, that's her name? Courtney
correct.
Proctor. Elberg?
I'm sorry?
Her last name?
Elberg.
Elberg, with an L. And you're aware that she is also
I'm here. I'm just going to
very, very good friends with Jillian Daniels, Julie Albert.
Correct.
Are you aware of any circumstance in which any of the Alberts have been over to your parents' house?
Yes,
Have you ever been over at your parents' house when any of the Alberts have been at your parents' house?
yes,
Those Alberts include Chris Albert, Julie Albert, Colin Albert, correct?
correct.
As a matter of fact, you were on or around January 29th, 2022, you were close enough friends with Julie Albert that she had your personal cell phone in her cell phone, correct? And vice versa.
I wouldn't classify us as close friends at all.
Okay, let me get back to my question. Did you have her cell phone in your phone and did she have yours?
I can't recall if I believe I had her stored in my phone.
Tab 4. All right. If you would turn to tab 4,
And what was this marked for ID?
this was,
Or tell me the numbers at the bottom.
oh, I've got the sheet right here. I've got a cheat sheet. Tab 4 is triple B,
Okay.
as in Bravo. And Your Honor, for the court, I'm looking at page 2625. You have that in front of you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize the participants in this chat?
I do.
The number ending in 5374, you recognize that as being from Julie Albert?
Based off the content of the message, yeah, I recognize this text message from Julie.
And she texts, "This is the weekend I've been waiting for. Michael, please send ski videos if CP doesn't share with me," with a laughing face, correct?
Correct.
That text was sent on February 24th, 2022, wasn't it?
Yes,
That was less than a month after Mr. O'Keefe's death, isn't that right?
correct.
And less than a month after you had been assigned to the investigation in which Julie Albert was a witness, correct?
Correct.
And her husband, Chris Albert, was a witness, correct?
Correct.
And her son, you knew, Colin, was involved as well, correct?
Yes.
Who is CP in that text message?
It's a nickname I have for my sister.
Courtney Proctor, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, if I may have just a moment.
Okay.
Zoom tight. Can we move to Trooper Proctor to tab 5, please? That's triple C as in Charlie. Do you have that in front of you, sir?
Yes.
And this would be page 2664. If you return to that page, please.
Okay.
Trooper Proctor, on January 19th, 2022, 10 days before Mr. O'Keefe's death, you were texting with your sister about whether Julie Albert might be available to babysit for your own son, correct?
Yes.
So in fact, your relationship with the Alberts was close enough that you would consider leaving your own child in the hands of Julie Albert as a babysitter, as a caregiver for your toddler, correct?
I wouldn't say close enough. I've hired babysitters that I've had out, but I don't know.
But Julie Albert was among them, correct?
Yes, she was an option to watch my child.
And then you personally interviewed Julie Albert and Chris Albert in this case on February 10th, 2022.
Sergeant Buchanan and I did, yes.
And you didn't mention a thing about your relationship with Julie Albert, Chris Albert, or Colin Albert in any report that you ever drafted in this case, did you?
I did not.
Not one word, correct?
No, sir.
You interviewed Julie and Chris Albert at about 5:30 p.m. on the 10th of February, isn't that right?
Yes.
Did either of them, Julie or Chris Albert, mention that their son Colin Albert had been at 34 Fairview Road on the night in question, January 29th?
I'd have to reread the report to refresh my memory on their statements.
Well, let me ask it a different way. If I may have just a moment.
Yes.
You wrote a report on October 12th, 2022, correct?
For which,
Concerning your interview with,
Why don't you show it to him?
I may have the wrong report. You don't have it, right? Do you recall, Trooper Proctor, ever mentioning that whether or not Julie and Chris mentioned to you that their son had been at 34 Fairview on January 29th? Do you recall that as you sit here?
to the best of my recollection, no.
It was a very short interview with Julie and Chris, was it not?
Typical length for the information they had to offer.
So you started the interview about 5:30 p.m. It must have been relatively short because you received a phone call by 6:17 from Julie Albert herself, correct?
I don't have the call detail record in front of me, but okay, yes.
Let's look at tab 6, please. Oh, it may not be in your book.
It's not, sir.
Okay, fair enough. You indicated that you might need to look at a phone record or a phone log to determine whether or not that call was made and what time it was made, correct?
If you have that,
May I
please.
approach you on?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's a highlighted portion, Trooper Proctor. Just focus your attention on that and let me know if that refreshes your recollection.
It does, sir. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
After your interview, you received a phone call from Julie Albert about 6:17, about 45 minutes after you began the interview and then left, correct?
Yes.
6:21, you called her back and you spoke for 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you discuss the interview?
I don't recall the content of that conversation.
And of course, you never memorialized that in any report, did you? The fact that you had a subsequent phone call with Julie Albert on your personal cell phone.
I did not.
Let's turn to tab 5 one more time. And if you could turn to page 2677. Trooper Proctor, after your interview with Julie Albert, your sister, Courtney, texted you, "How did it go at Julie's? She was so nervous." You recall that?
Yes.
In fact, you responded to that with a ha, 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 ha. 4 ha's, right? And then why, question mark, correct?
Correct.
Then you responded, "It was fine, just a quick convo," correct?
Yes.
You were literally reporting back to your sister about the progress of your investigation in a homicide investigation, weren't you?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Were you reporting your progress to your sister about your investigation?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay.
All right, everybody. I hate to do this, but I do have to go. I appreciate you all being here with me this morning and watching some of this testimony. Unfortunately, I got to go to my job. So thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I don't know, maybe I come back later tonight and do a recap and listen to the rest of this. I know definitely tomorrow night, Jess Machado and Maz Media will be with me. So just look out. Maybe I'll do a stream tonight. I'm not too sure. I got to work late. So I'll try to do the best that I can. I'm going to be in court, not in court, but I will be at court on Friday morning to support. And then we'll do some wrap-up shows this weekend. So thank you all for being here. I'm sorry. I do have to go. I have to get ready.
You
for
are
work.
unmuted.
Out. But everybody have an amazing day. Go watch the creators you watch, and I'll talk to everybody soon. Bye, everybody.
May I? Yes. Thank you. Were you reporting your progress?